Hello, welcome to this training session where we're going to be talking about organization administration. So in EMSWeb, the personnel that have user accounts that are organization administrators have the ability to create organizations and alter the organization hierarchy within their organization. So there's written guidance available on this topic, and that's located under the EMS website, map and guidance link, always available on the right-hand side of EMSWeb, and then just scroll down on that page until you find the organization's hyperlink. So before we start talking about creating organizations, I want to discuss very briefly about how organizations are administered within EMSWeb. So we have a hierarchy where we have parent organizations and children organizations. So children organizations reside below the parent organization. And the idea here is that all of the information flows upward. If you're sitting at the regional point of view, then you're able to access and view all of the information of the child organizations that reside below you. Organizations that are not directly below you, you cannot view any of the information. So if you're at NAS Barbers Point, you cannot see the information of Fisk Pearl Harbor. At NAS Barbers Point, because there are no organizations below NAS Barbers Point, the only information they would be able to see is their own organization. If you're at the region, then you can see everybody in below you in the red box. So the idea here is that the regions and the installations are able to create additional organizations within EMSWeb. And each organization has their own data set, their own set of user accounts, and so on. So it's an entirely new instance of an organization. So this ability is available to organization administrators that have this admin tab showing up. And so you would navigate to the admin tab, and then once that tab shows up, you would go down to security, to the security subtab, and find organizations. And then this would list all of the organizations. In this case, I'm currently at Naval Station Atlantis, and so this is our test area where we allow people to have access to it and create and delete information at will, and it doesn't matter to anything within EMSWeb. So here we have a whole bunch of fake sub-organizations or children organizations to Naval Station Atlantis. And at the bottom, you'll see the organization hierarchy for Naval Station Atlantis. So I want to switch over to a real region. So I'm going to look at CNR Northwest to see how they have set up their organization hierarchy. So when I first created and set up EMSWeb for CNR Northwest, all I did was I added in the main installations, the 4 appropriate facilities for CNR Northwest. And so they went ahead and they created additional organizations for their use. So you can see that they've created a reserve centers directly below CNR Northwest, and then below reserve centers, they added in a whole bunch of individual reserve centers that they wanted to add in additional EMSWeb data to each of those. As for the installation, you can see that the installation themselves went ahead and customized and then added in additional organizations. So for Naval-based Kitsap, they added in 3 additional organizations, Bangor, Bremerton, and Jackson Park. You can see that NAS Whidbey Island does not have any child organizations, whereas Naval Station Everett has Jim Creek underneath it. And so I want to go through and show you how to create an additional organization. So I'm going to click back to my Naval Station Atlantis. And so from the Security Organizations subtab, you have this new organization link. So if you click on new organization, you can fill out the 2 mandatory fields, which is organization name and parent organization. So I'm going to give this a name of Training Test Organization. And I can place this organization directly beneath any organization that I have access to. So in this case, I want to put it underneath Naval Station Atlantis. I can define the organization type. So if it's an appropriate facility, a tenant, a special area, a branch, or a department, whatever the case may be, you can add that in. If you want to designate the UIC, this is the place to do it. In EMSWeb, whenever you create a finding, that UIC information is automatically pulled into the finding number. We also have a time zone, so you can specify what time zone the installation is, and then whenever any information is added to this organization, it automatically gets adjusted to that time zone. Let's see, so once you click Save Organization, and remember only the first 2 fields are necessary, then that's it. You've created the organization. So if I go back to the organization table, and I look at the organization chart, so here's Naval Station Atlantis, and then directly below it is this training test organization that I've just created. So I could just as easily move this organization by editing the organization profile and putting it underneath an existing organization. For example, if I want to take this training test organization and move it under this example sub-organization, to do that, I would first select the organization. So I clicked on the filter, and I'm just going to search for the training name. So here's my training test organization. I'm going to click into it and click on Edit. And then I'm going to change the parent organization. So previously it was underneath Naval Station Atlantis. I'm going to click on the arrow to expand and view the organizations underneath Naval Station Atlantis. And here's the example sub-organization that I want to move it underneath. So once I do that and click on Save Organization, and I go back to the organization table and look at the hierarchy, and now we can see that training test organization has been moved under example sub-organization. And so it's really that easy to create and move entire organizations around in EMSWeb. Now, the only thing we do not allow you to do in EMSWeb is to delete organizations. So the organization administrator at an organization can create additional organizations and move it around to any organization that they have access to. And they can do this without contacting the EMSWeb administrators or anyone else. They can do it entirely on their own. But when it comes to deleting organizations, EMSWeb does not allow you to delete them. And this is to maintain the integrity of the EMSWeb data set, because it's very easy to delete an organization and create issues and problems with entities that are related to that organization. So if you want to delete an organization, contact the EMSWeb administrators and make that request. For example, under the quick links is this Get Support. And so you would say delete the training organization. And so just write out a message to the EMSWeb administrators. Okay, the only thing we ask you to do before you request an organization to be deleted is to deactivate the users of that organization. Okay, so then just click on the Submit Request. That will go directly to the EMSWeb administrators, and they will delete the organization for you. The response time for replying to those requests is generally pretty quick. It usually gets done within a day or two. And so that concludes this training session on how to administrate additional organizations for organization administrators. Thank you.